a few seconds and start. Welcome everyone to the Canadian Immigrant web conference series in partnership with Access Employment and sponsored by IFSC, Public Mobile, Windmill Microlending, and Western Union. So my name is Ramya Ramanathan. I'm the editor of Canadian Immigrant, and I'm joined by my colleagues Laura Jackman, Ricky Bajaj, and Sanjay Agnihotri. So hello from all of us. We're thrilled to have you join us for this industry-specific web conference for internationally educated banking and finance professionals. We've had a few last year, and they were very well received and very successful. So we hope you will enjoy this session. Note that this is being recorded and posted on our website. So if you cannot attend in person, this will be available later. So welcome again. This three-part web conference will feature speakers from McGill University, IFSC, and Relgit Coached. Before we start our sessions with our first speaker, we have a short video to share from one of our sponsors, Public Mobile, who supports Canadian Immigrant and allows us to run these free events and webinars for newcomers across the country. So here goes Public Mobile.
Matt and Megan felt stuck with their phone company. But since switching to Public Mobile, where there's no commitments, no contracts, and no hidden fees, they're free to feel the love again.
Laura, thank you for that. In addition, we'd like to mention from one of our sponsors, Western Union. Sorry. Western Union is, this is news from one of our sponsors. Western Union is currently offering an amazing offer for newcomers to transfer money to their loved ones at no fee, at $0. Simply download the Western Union app to find out more. So once again, thank you to our sponsors, and we'll get started with our first speaker from McGill University, Eduardo Lima. So we're thrilled to have you here, Eduardo. And Eduardo is a faculty lecturer and has an MBA in finance and comes to you with a 17-year career as an actuarial and investment consultant. So if you're considering a career in a fast-paced, energetic banking or finance sector, you've come to the right place, or if you're looking for career advancement. So let's welcome Eduardo as he speaks about the various aspects, including courses and certifications, industry standards and practices, and shares his experience and opportunities for growth. So just a quick mention that if you have questions for Eduardo, feel free to type them in the chat as we go along and in the Q&A box of the chat, or you can email us at info@canadianimmigrant.ca and we'll come to the questions at the end of Eduardo's presentation. So Eduardo, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ramya. And thank you to the Canadian Immigrant team for the invitation. It's an honor to be here and participating in this webinar, representing McGill University, and also giving one more data point, one more example of someone who has come to Canada and has worked in finance and has had a career in a field that potentially you who are participating in this webinar may be in a similar situation. So I have something to share on my screen. So let's see if this works. So that's why I titled my one-pager for today, having a successful career in finance in Canada, assuming that you may be coming from outside of Canada and looking into possibilities. And you may have already some stretches of your career in finance in a different country and are coming to Canada, or maybe not, depending on your age and path in general. So I have had one such path, and so we tend to like to, in the field of education, we tend to find ways to show the way to people and teach and help that learning process. That's kind of what I see my mission today, in this role at McGill, as well as having seen what I have seen in a certain industry, which turned out to be professional services, finance related, actuarial work for pension plans, calculating liabilities and looking at funding status of pension plans and regulations and so on. So it's financial institutions that I have worked with from a consultant point of view. So it was such a path which lasted some time. And so that experience serves me also in my role as an educator. So I'm always happy to talk about aspects of that path. And so what is a successful career after all? It depends on what your definition of success anyway, and different people may have a different definition of success. And so, having a successful career may mean, becoming a C-suite executive in a company, or it may mean bringing my own company to existence and sustaining it let's say, in a very progressive way. It can be learning a new language. It can be so many different things. It's all about setting goals for you and calling that a win, and going for the next one. So you actually set sub goals that you will just strive to achieve sequentially, and so you can do that obviously in every part of your life, but including your professional life. And it could actually be, this could be being said in different contexts, not necessarily only finance, because, this is, really about finding ways to, if you think about it, we are not very far away from machines ourselves, right? Human beings, we are animals. We come from the living being side of things, but we have ways to use logic to organize things, and that's the learning is an organization process that happens in our brains as well. So we should not lose sight of these physical things as well. But at the end of the day, you need to build paths toward those goals. So you want to set up these virtuous cycles, as I like to call them. It's the opposite of a vicious cycle. A vicious cycle is something where you start, something starts going wrong, and then that has domino effects on other things that tend to go wrong, and so on, and you see yourself in some kind of hurricane. In people, with our experience, we have seen life in different of these stages, and we want to certainly put ourselves professionally and also in other ways in our life in a state where we can sustain a combination of a level of engagement at your work where that leads to information advantage, meaning that you have better awareness of the reality in your I'm thinking about workplace, right? And obviously, having informational advantage, you need compliance with ethical standards in order to achieve sustainable success. And so, okay, so you have to define what success is, obviously, but you need some informational advantage and an ethical code, because if you only have informational advantage, you are smarter than everybody else, or you achieve certain information that you just, tend to be observant and collect this information and use your mind to process it. You need also to abide by ethical standards in order to guarantee that, I'm using this correctly. And therefore, that has an impact in the bottom line, which is I can sustain that success. You see that it's not a coincidence that the companies that do better are the ones that also do good. So the the environmental, social, and governance issues are extremely important, and that's a very common and recent trend in financial issues everywhere. So that's very common and very current in today's world to understand these issues, and the ethical aspect of it is extremely important. So that's part of the virtuous cycle. That sustainable success, in its turn, will affect your own motivation to continue pushing in that direction. And so, depending on your personality too, that motivation will turn into engagement. And you see that this is a cycle there. Engagement will lead to, again, information advantage. Because engagement means that you are committed to that work and you are listening and paying attention. Your memory is working at its maximum. You are away from other types of cycles that are more in the negative sides, vicious cycles that include procrastination, addiction. You want to move away from those. If you need, read the 7 Habits book. But you want to put yourself in a situation where you can, generate, if you will, low entropy in your system. But that's too theoretical. Let's think about more practical things. You are in that system and you are essentially trying to isolate from external shocks. But external shocks happen in our lives no matter what. They can be more holistic, maybe because you are moving to a different country, and maybe that's your situation arriving in Canada. So those distractors potentially also can be turned into opportunities if you find the right channels. So what to do in my own situation? It's hard to speak that in let's say in a very abstract way without looking at specific cases, because every person has their own history. But certainly you want to establish a decent package of skills that you want to have with you in order to establish let's say a career that you can look at it and say, wow, I'm achieving that success in a career in finance. So specifically about finance, what is it there that is so important to have? I would say that it's more because it's a combination of skills. You certainly need the technical skills. Finance sometimes sounds even scary because you think about mathematics and the economic theory, which is, very, it's abstract for one thing, but also not always consistent either, because it's one of those empirical sciences. You observe things, you use statistics to observe things, and then you try to turn that into theories to try to apply elsewhere. It's kind of, there is a scientific method there as well. And so the technical skills are extremely important. And so, there are many ways to acquire those skills. Globally, we are lucky in the finance world to have the CFA Institute that oversees most of it. But there are also regional institutions that look at specific other things, such as regulation and securities markets. And so depending on your career path, you might go and do, the CFA path, or you might do, it could also even be financial planning path, because you are going to be working more with individual investors as opposed to institutional investors. But even there, it's not such a clear borderline between which professional designation you might want to pursue, or even if you want to pursue a professional designation, because you may already have you may have already a lot of experience, and you say, maybe I'm going to look at that. Well, depending on the job that you're going to be looking at, see what are the requirements in terms of designations, if any. Or sometimes it's an asset to have certain professional designations. So the CFA Institute has a CFA program, and the curriculum of the CFA program is quite vast in terms of understanding the world of finance, and so it's adequate for such. And that's also behind some of what I've been doing at McGill University, which is looking at educating folks for potentially finance jobs. And because it's continuing studies school, we work with many immigrant-related students. So we have we're looking at a community at McGill that includes both folks coming from outside the country and looking at their new career in finance, as well as folks, Canadians who might want to change their career. They have done other things, and they're looking at a diploma program to work there. So the technical skills should be combined with communication and interpersonal skills. To have a successful career in whatever field it is, you need the technical skills in that field, and you also need the communication skills. And so, how do you develop those? Of course, it's awareness and the experience. Language is extremely important, so that's why I have language there as the first point. You may not be able to speak a new language so perfectly, but you should be responsible for developing your vocabulary, or also being able to say what you think in a way that you engage the person. So having also the self-awareness of how your language skills are, and strive to continue developing them. So practice, practice presenting something. Come around and do a guest speaker in a lecture, or a guest lecture. If you have experience in a certain field, you can talk about that field, and so prepare a little blurb for it, and be ready for an invitation or something. So the communication skills are multidimensional. It's not only presenting, but it's also listening, writing certainly, and even the relationship itself, and what are the important things to keep in mind when you are looking at having influence, a positive influence in coworkers. So all of these are more in the psychology field than in finance, but they're extremely important for a successful career. They make a huge difference. So it never should be underestimated, the importance of the general interpersonal skills and communication skills. And finally, the principles that will help in this sustainable, successful, virtuous cycle is related to the ethical standards that I already mentioned. The CFA Institute, by the way, has an established the code and code of ethics and standards of professional conduct, where every CFA charter holder needs to abide by, and so we have to learn this information and have a better understanding. And yet, finance is such a we can spend so long talking about finance, and I want to leave some time for possible discussions and questions. So because when you are working in finance, you are able to do different tasks, right? You may be working with a spreadsheet and preparing summaries for someone who's going to receive that. You are in a workplace, and you are moving around information, data there. So every time that you are doing something that you are supposed to, you should treat that as if it's the first time that you are doing it. So, but it's repetitive, you can say. Well, still treat it as if it's the first time, because there's going to be something new. It can't be exactly the same as before. So look for mistakes, and you're going to find them. You're going to find nuances about it. That's how you build. It's even better to build experience out of a mechanical task than starting very loose task already. But in either way, every job is supposed to be your first job. Another principle that can always helpful is that whenever you have a request for an information that is so easy for you to do that, but you have the tendency, it's almost human nature, we are procrastinators. The tendency is to say, I'll leave that for later. I know where it is already, so, and I'm so busy with these other things. Well, that's a low-hanging fruit that if you, you may even think that it's not, it doesn't sound like it's so urgent. But still, if it's easy enough to do it right away, just do it right away, because that fast, prompt reply sometimes make a huge difference in the receptor of that information. And even if they didn't mention that it was urgent, they received that quickly, and they, something very good might have happened because of that, right? So score early. That means scoring early. It means, think about a soccer match if you want. A team that scores early is because they, very early, there was an opportunity, and they took benefit from that opportunity. And then finally, always learn and practice what you learn. So whether you are in finance, whether you are in music, whether you are in any field where you want to build this little piece, which you call your career, and you look at it and you say like, well, this was very interesting. I was able to achieve this, and that, and these were intermediate goals that I had set. And I hope that all these pieces that we've talked about here today will be inspiring for the audience for looking at their career. And I will stand also ready for questions here now, and also by email. I left my email on the page here at McGill, and it'll be a pleasure to be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eduardo. Before we get to questions, I'm going to ask you a specific question. Can you speak a little about the experiences your students are currently having finding jobs, especially in the last year or so? Can you talk a little about the experience they're having, and also perhaps how they're overcoming the challenges and what opportunities they're finding? Thanks.
Thank you for the question, Ramya. I think I'll stop sharing for now. I'll leave it here for now. So the students currently in our program, many of them are currently working. Some others are not working yet. They are in the job market looking for jobs. And some of them are also writing the CFA exam. And so they are taking a break from work. They're not yet ready to go to find a job because they might want to pass one or two exams. So they would enroll in the program as well. But some students who are currently working, well, there recently, I've just heard from two students in a course. It wasn't even, a solicited feedback, but a couple of students were talking about their recent experience. One of them just recently started a new job in a banking institution. And the other student had recently gotten a promotion also in a banking institution. So and both of them were just kind of giving some testimony to other students who were in that meeting about how the information that they are studying, which could have come from not necessarily only that program, right? This is having an education in finance, the importance of having an education wherever it is. If it makes sense for you to do the education in finance in the school that's close to your residence, then that's what makes the most sense, or another school that what you have already had experience with, your alma mater. Or where McGill University is there as well, offering different programs, and we are always looking to see what are the needed skills in the marketplace for jobs, and how to achieve those skills. Of course, basing ourselves with the CFA Institute, and it's an affiliated program, we are certainly taking some advantage of this connection, because if our students are looking to have a job in finance, they also want to have some contact with the most important professional association in the industry, at least let's say the most international, or one of the most valued ones, where the very important jobs that are requiring the professional designation, at least in a vast field of finance, but it's not in all the fields. So this is, we're trying to see what other options are there too. So financial planning is an option where you would, be closer to a regional association. If you're in Quebec, it's going to be IQPF. If it's in Canada, you're going to look at FP Canada, Financial Planning Canada, elsewhere outside of Quebec. And you might also be looking at designations that relate to other areas, such as regulatory, securities exchange. If you want to work as a trader, you're going to need an additional designation as well. So it depends on what professional direction you want to go. You might go also slightly off in accounting. So there are programs for that both at McGill and outside. And the students are really, and sorry, I'm just going back to your question, the students, they have varied profiles, but they are having some success in their pursuits, in the professional pursuits. And so for us, it's always, great to hear, about success stories, and also to hear about other stories that we want to help turn into more successful and work with the students. So McGill has a structure that also works with students in terms of career planning and all that.
Thank you so much, Eduardo. That was very comprehensive. There's another question on the same lines on they're both CFA and Canadian Securities Institute programs. Which one should we be pursuing?
It's really, that's a great question. It's really a question that depends on the person, for sure. Depends on your career aspirations. And at this point, you may not even know exactly what each one leads more towards to. So to have a better sense of that, I would say read more of the job postings and see what type of activities you're going to be involved to, what are the requirements. So look for jobs that are posted that talk a lot about CFA, and look at job descriptions that also talk a lot about the securities exchange. So you will see kind of where you might be more attracted to, because it's important that you will say, I'm driving, my goals, my career goals are such that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, even if I'm not there yet. But if it turns out that I want to be working more like what these jobs say, then I should be going for the securities exam as opposed to the CFA. What I see a lot is that because the CFA examination is so vast, and maybe because it covers more area in the job market as well as in applications in general, because the material is so vast, it's the CFA curriculum. Then I see that people will probably say, I'll do the CFA because if I need, it's going to be an extra exam or two for the securities exams, and the material is a lot of overlap, and I won't be losing out by learning more general finance. So the CFA curriculum has from ethics to quantitative methods to economics to accounting to corporate finance to investments, equities, fixed income, derivatives, alternative investments, and portfolio management. So it's really like it's almost everything you need. That plus maybe one course or something, you have all the knowledge that you need in finance. If you study, if you apply your energy towards it and have the right dedication in that study process, right? So that's kind of also the philosophy of our program at McGill. So I really enjoy this question. It's very nice.
Great, thank you. That was very comprehensive. And another specific question is, where are jobs listed? I know there are lots of sites. If you just want to go with like 2 or 3.
I would go first LinkedIn for sure.
Okay.
LinkedIn is really, it's the Facebook of the professional, maybe not the whole professional world, but professional services for sure, and financial services even more. So you should have for one thing, you should definitely have your updated LinkedIn profile in there, and also spend time in LinkedIn and looking at people. And sometimes it's, it shouldn't feel too bad if you're just looking at their professional lives, right? You're looking at their careers and everything, what they're doing now, and start with people but then, see who you might want to meet. So LinkedIn should be used in a very proactively way, and including looking for jobs, because they also post jobs there. I'm pretty sure that because I didn't have only like a long job, I had a few jobs, and some of them were shorter than others. So in at least one of them, the networking was done using mainly LinkedIn. So that's really important. And especially in a pandemic time where you can't really go to events and meet people personally, then you can even make a more efficient, relatively more efficient use of LinkedIn, because you're not constrained by geography, or even you may be constrained by that initial energy that you need. Remember the virtuous cycle. Put yourself in there. Don't waste any time. Time management skills. There could be so many other words in the slide, keywords that I wanted to mention, that they just keep coming, but hopefully this gives a good idea.
Great, thank you. I just want to add that there are a lot of mentoring programs as well. That just Google mentoring. There's TRIAC. We have the Canadian Immigrant Virtual Fair coming up on the 15th of April for the Eastern region. And we have TRIAC speaking at the closing session. So just go to our website, find out more. There's the Edmonton Region Immigrant Employment Council. They all have mentoring programs. Perfect time during COVID. They all take place online. So just to add to what Eduardo is saying, networking, find mentors. There's another question. I have a master's degree in finance, and I want to say baking because it says, but banking. And I graduated in my country. Will my degree be valid and honored in Canada?
Yeah, it depends on what for they're going to be valid and honored. Of course, having a master's degree, if you want to come into another educational institution, maybe to do another program, I'm pretty sure that it depends on which institution, how the recognition of the different institutions. So there is this whole process there that takes place. But and also what my experience shows is that we have students coming in with other degrees. If you're thinking about the job market, that's maybe a different whole story in terms of what the answer to the question is, because many jobs, they not necessarily require a master's degree, or they may see value in it. They may see as a possible proof that you understand the material and you have learned that, and then that together with your other experience working, which will be in your resume, a potential employer will see that it's worth to interview this person, and so you have that as your starting point, or also you can see what other experience can I start getting here in Canada, so I can add to this. So you're going to maybe be looking for your first job, but maybe you were already there. Maybe you were in your second job. So depending on where you are, you will also add any other information that you have started acquiring over the more recent period while in Canada, whether it's educational related or professional related. So, but it's great that having a master's degree outside, it essentially means that you have already a lot of information learned, and then together with experience, it's very good indication. There is other distractors, right? The older we are, and we can't deny this, but the older we are, and maybe the less attractive we are, because also it's perceived as having salary requirements that are higher. That's another aspect of the things in the job market that we didn't really touch much here today, but and it's something that everybody will eventually go through as well, and then as time passes, that's what we see. I look back and I go like, oh my gosh, so much time has already passed for me, but it's been a nice trajectory so far, and I can say that I'm very lucky.
Great. Eduardo, thank you for that very comprehensive presentation. We have more questions, but we'll email you and we'll get this to you. So thank you again. That was Eduardo Lima, everyone. And next up, to join us at the Canadian Immigrant Web Conference Series for internationally trained banking and finance professionals in partnership with Access Employment and sponsored by IFSC, Public Mobile, Windmill Microlending, and Western Union. We have Fatima Nazarali from IFSC. So welcome, Fatima.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks so much.
Fatima is the Director of Sales and Business Development at IFSC and has a double major from Glendon York University in Sociology and Psychology. If you're seeking to launch or advance your career in the financial services industry, Fatima will have a macro overview of the Canadian financial industry, licensing requirements and growth opportunities, and more. So at the end, similar to what we did with the Q&A, just send questions, type them in the chat, or email us at info@canadianimmigrant.ca. So thank you, Fatima, for making time, and please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thanks again, Canadian Immigrant, for hosting this event and allowing us to be on. As well, Eduardo, that was really, really good. It was a great segue into pretty much what IFSC and Ifc Institute does in terms of that niche marketplace while people are on their way to getting their CFA, for example, or their CFP. So it's been a very good segue. So thank you to that. I'm just going to share my screen right now, and hopefully this works. Perfect. And I'm assuming it worked. So what I want to do right now is first take you through a brief agenda in terms of what I'm going to be discussing. So the Canadian financial industry on a whole, just basically an overview of what we mean by that. Hard and soft skills, and Eduardo touched upon this a bit as well in terms of language. And so I want to kind of go into that a little bit more as well. Who we are at the Ifc Institute, and some of the challenges newcomers face, and kind of take you through that as well, and maybe provide some options. So without further ado, I'm assuming everybody here has you're internationally trained, so I mean this should be pretty much you already know, but definition of financial industry is a business sector incorporating business activities related to money and finance. And obviously, it contributes to the economic growth by facilitating financial transactions, as well as provides financial services for economic consumption. So what I'm going to do as I present these slides to you guys, you're going to notice, company names come up a few times, because even though we say financial services such a big entity, in terms of big enterprises or corporations, there are just so many in this industry. So, with mergers and acquisitions, smaller shops are getting, into bigger shops, into the banks, credit unions, etc. So you'll find that it is, that 6 degree of separation. You kind of find that within the financial services industry itself. So Canada, as the financial services industry, is one of the most sophisticated in the world, and it's home to one of the top financial centers as well. So if you look at the ranking in terms of cities, we're in Toronto, ranked number 7. So that speaks volume in regards to our city and what we have to offer. These are the biggest, the 10 biggest Canadian companies in financial services. You'll notice, and this is what I mean, that these companies, you'll keep on seeing them throughout my slides. So what I want you to do is take a note of these companies. And there was a really good question to Eduardo regarding, well, where do I go? Where do I find, jobs or more information? Search on the internet, go on to these websites or these company websites. You'll be able to understand their mission, their vision. They will also have job boards available if they're hiring directly. Eduardo brought up a good point about LinkedIn, and I'll probably speak about that a little bit later on. But that's another one where, just follow these organizations on LinkedIn, for example, and they will provide additional information. So jot these organizations down, go onto their website, do some research. You'll find the information you're looking for. So these are the top. You'll find some banks on there, asset managers, as well as insurance companies. Those are kind of like the large conglomerates operating in this space. In terms of financial industry, it is, once again, a very thriving industry. It's about 7.1% of the Canadian GDP. It employs about 831,000 Canadians, and we've seen about an 11.6 increase in growth since 2007. And as you've noticed, obviously COVID last year brought a damper on everything, but you'll notice that in terms of the two industries that you're probably hearing about the most is real estate, and go figure that one, but you also have financial services. So those are the two probably industries that have done really well given the whole COVID environment where we're at right now. Companies, for example, like the airline industry or retail or even restaurants are the industries, unfortunately, that have been impacted the biggest and the strongest with COVID. So it's going to be interesting to see the stats that are going to come out from, you know, the post-pandemic world, what happened last year and it flowing through to this year, how that's going to look. So it will be nice to just keep an eye on that. But financial services industry, it's holding strong and growing. Canada, once again, we're part of the G7 nations. As you can see, there's the list of the seven nations. So Canada is part of that. And obviously those are the, you know, the 7 world leaders come together, discuss the economic crisis or economic growth, what's going on. GDP contribution, these are the top 4 provinces. So you're looking at Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, as well as Alberta. And the good thing about that is when I'm looking at newcomers or new immigrants, most of the time, these are the provinces that we see a big promotion, a big influx of newcomers. Quebec, obviously, because of the French-speaking language, a lot of people from Africa immigrate to Quebec because of that. But Ontario is probably the largest, and then, you know, the rest of the provinces follow suit as well. Not to say that the other provinces have newcomers or new immigrants, they do, because as you'll notice, banks as well as, you know, the credit unions and some of the investment firms, they're national. So they're across from east to west coast. You're gonna encounter big banks, credit unions, investment firms, insurance firms, they are across Canada. So 7 of the 15 largest companies in Canada are financial institutions. Once again, here they are. So make a note of them. These are the top big companies. Once again, go onto their website, do a little bit of research. The internet is your friend. So I like saying that because, you know what, you don't know something, what do you usually do? You ask Siri, you ask Google, and there you go, voila, you've got the information that you need. So I would, you know, encourage you to visit the websites and get a better understanding of the requirements or what these organizations are looking for. Now, the financial services industry is divided into these 3 main industry segments. You've got the banking, you've got investments that kind of tie into banking a bit, but there's also investment firms that run on their own. And then you've got insurance. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time kind of discussing this because I'm pretty sure everyone on here is extremely smart and already knows this. But, you know, banking, you're dealing with banking, lending, and deposits. And these, once again, large 6 big banks. So you're looking at RBC, TD, Scotia, BMO, CIBC, as well as National. These are the big, large conglomerates, banks that you hear about every day and everywhere, and you're probably banking with them as well. And then you've got insurance, and that's obviously insurance, life and health, property, as well as casualty. And these are some of the largest companies on the insurance side of the business as well. So you've got Manulife, Canada Life, Sun Life, and obviously this isn't an exhaustive list, but this is kind of the largest companies that I was able to pull up in terms of my stats: Industrial Alliance, Desjardins, Intact, and so forth. Then you come into the investment side of things. So you're dealing with mutual funds, you're dealing with investments, so securities and capital markets. And these are the organizations that deal in that space. So once again, the banks, because they also do investments, they do securities. And then you've got owned by insurance companies, so investment fund managers. Some of the insurance companies out there as well do investments. So you've got like World Financial Group, you've got Primerica, Investors Group, Asante. So these are all types of companies as well that are out there. And then you've got your independently owned. So your CART, your Global, your Portfolio, your Sterling mutual funds. Once again, not very, not exhaustive. There are more, but in sake of time, these are the largest out there. In terms of, oh, whoops, sorry about that. There we go. I don't want to spend a lot of time just discussing Toronto, but you can read along on the slides here in terms of some stats. But what I do want to emphasize is the last point on this slide. One of the highest shares of female executives in Canada reside in Toronto. That is great. That is amazing. With the whole diversity, inclusion, gender equality, equity, that's what we want to promote. Studies have shown, and I've read this and I've attended, female-only conferences that kind of discuss this as well, is for my female colleagues that are on this panel, if there are jobs out there, so studies have shown that if there are jobs in which a female, would be interested in applying for, if she only meets 3 out of the 5 criteria for that job, most likely she won't apply for that job. Whereas her male counterpart, oh, I only have 3. Okay, I'll apply. I'll probably learn the rest, no problem. So that's one thing I want to emphasize is get yourself outside your comfort zone. Apply for jobs. What's the worst that can come out of it? Maybe you'll be told no, or maybe you'll be told you need to upgrade this skill or that skill, or maybe your experience will speak for itself. And you know what? You'll learn on the job. How many things happen on the job? A lot of it is on the job learning. So that's kind of one advice I want to leave to my female counterparts on this presentation is go for it, do it. There were times where I was attending conferences, and I've been at Ifc Institute. I'm going to be going on 19 years in September, so a very long time. But when I first started in the industry, I would go to conferences and literally be the only female alongside my male counterparts, wholesalers, and it would just be me. And I've seen the transition, and slowly year over year, that changes as more women get involved in financial services, in sales, in just different aspects of this financial industry world. And it's been so amazing to see that trajectory. It's been really good. So once again, that's probably what I want to spend some time on, focusing on this particular point. One last stat. So Toronto, once again, has the highest concentration of financial services employment in North America at 8.3%. And that was in 2018. So it'd be really interesting to see what the stats of last year, for example, holds to be true. Based on what's going on in our industry and education, we are seeing an influx of people registering into the courses. So in terms of the next slide, and this is where, kind of touch upon what Eduardo was saying, in terms of language and skills. So it's kind of divided into hard skills as well as soft skills. And it's kind of like a balance between those two. And when I say hard skill, you're talking about required versus soft skills where I'm talking about transferable. So hard skills are our courses, our training, our technical, their certification, there's languages that, language courses that you might have to take, versus the soft skills, which are more the creative, the people skills, the adaptability, leadership, and time management. Now, there's been time over time that I have, I've been at booths, for example, in these newcomer fairs, and newcomers will come to my booth and ask me, or be discouraged and feel lost and say, I'm always stopped with that Canadian experience. Like this is what I've done back home. Like, look at everything I've done, and I just come here and now I'm stuck. And what I want to say is highlight and strengthen your soft skills. Like you have in your position back home, or you've held positions, you've held leadership positions, for example. Maybe you've been managing a group. Maybe you've built a book of business from scratch. Maybe you created, I don't know, you created something that helps with your bottom line or the revenues of your company. Those are strengths. Those are what employers are looking for. So do not discourage yourself because you don't have the hard skills. The hard skills, you're gonna learn it. So you're gonna have to take courses regardless. You're gonna have to take the mutual funds or the securities, or as Eduardo say, your CFA is your path that you want to go, or CFP. Those are hard skills. You're gonna have to take it because it's a regulated industry. You can't get around that. But highlight and strengthen your soft skills. Put that on your cover letter, or put that on your resume. Put that on LinkedIn as skills that you're able to bring to the organization. So at Ifc Institute, we actually hire 60% actually of my sales support marketing staff are newcomers. A couple of them actually just came, like, I think a couple of years ago. So we value what newcomers bring to the organization because they bring diversity. They bring so much more. So don't hold yourself to a lower standard. You deserve better. So that's kind of what I wanted to say here. And that ties into a little bit in terms of what I'm going to be discussing on my next slide, Ifc Institute. So who are we? So we're the educational arm of IFIC, and that's Investment Funds Institute of Canada. And IFIC is a trade association, and what they do is lobby on behalf of the mutual fund industry. And we're the educational arm, and we offer education. We're a not-for-profit organization. So we offer courses such as the Canadian Investment Funds course, which is our mutual funds, the LLQP, which is the life license, and then the Exempt Market, which is the EMP course. And so these types of courses are really, really good because that's entry level baseline. If you want to get into the industry, you have to take licensing courses, as I've mentioned. And maybe on your pursuit to your financial planning or your pursuit to your CFA, it's going to take time to get there as you're actually, progressing through your career path. You might start off doing the Canadian Investment Funds course, for example, getting your feet wet, getting a job into the financial services industry just to get in. And then you start branching off and you start deciding what your career path is going to look like, and what that's going to involve, and where that's going to take you. So I always say, start baseline. Everyone is starting from scratch. So even if you've done all your courses back home and somebody's done all their courses here, but nothing to do with the Canadian Investment Funds course, well, it doesn't matter if you studied here or you studied there. You both have to do the Canadian Investment Funds course. That's the course everybody needs to take. So which is really good to get an understanding of. So what I want to do right now is just take you through really briefly our website at ifsc.ca. And I am hoping this is going to work. And so what I want to do right now is just kind of highlight the career section of our website. So I encourage you, yes, please go on our website, go through our courses, but also go through our careers, because what we've done a lot of studies and we've done a lot of research, and we continually to do so to bring you more information. So Faces of the Industry, for example, is a great interview that we did with industry leaders in the organizations, and kind of talk to them. And some of them are from banks or mutual funds or insurance companies. And we talked to them when we asked them questions about what it took for them to get where they're at, and kind of give you more information about that. So have a look at this section, read their story, and as it says, chart your path. But we also have day in the life videos. And these are kind of light. They are animated, but it kind of gives you an idea of what a typical day of an insurance agent, for example, will look like, or a client service representative. So have a look at that screen. And then what I want to highlight as well is the career pathways, because I think this is the most important as well. So what we've done is kind of went out, researched out what it means to start your career. If you wanted to get into, become a financial advisor assistant, or if you wanted to go into the financial, life insurance agent, for example, what's required. And as you click through, you're going to have description of what it means, but also key skills and attributes and salary ranges. So, it's between 50 to 100,000 in remuneration. And it'll tell you, because what you have to keep in mind too is some of these jobs, you might have a base salary, and then like superimposed on that is like a commission structure or a bonus structure. And then other jobs are going to be 100% commission. So you have to do your research and figure out, okay, what does that look like? Can I afford to go 100% commission right now? Or is it something where I need to find myself a job and get more skills? And then I'm okay because I can talk to people. I have no problem sitting in front of a, kitchen table, like that's, post-COVID, obviously, sitting in front of a kitchen table and talking to a client about their life insurance plans, what their, the child education is going to look like, et cetera, right? So have a look at these sections. Compliance is another huge one, like branch manager, what's involved. So it takes you through it, and then it tells you the recommended courses that you need to take in order to achieve that position. So once again, just please do go ahead and have a look at our website and go through that, because I think it will be very beneficial. So let me just see if it should take me back. And then I'm going to end off on a couple of these newcomer challenges that we've faced as well, and that we hear about a lot of. And so you're looking at obviously things like overqualification, overeducation, under specialization. And then I'll end off on financial illiteracy. But in terms of overqualification, overeducation, under specializations, you're not the only one. Like, I want to make it seem like newcomers face this. So when you think you're the only one, you're not the only one. So there's everyone kind of facing that same kind of, challenges, in terms of Ifc Institute. As I mentioned, we hired, 60% of our staff are newcomers. So they tell me some of the challenges they faced. We have a colleague that her husband just came from Syria, and he's a doctor back home, qualified doctor back home, but he comes here and he can't just be a doctor here. There are requirements, and there are things that he needs to take. So now he's just taking any which job just to make ends meet for himself. So that's, it happens, right? But, things are slowly changing in terms of, colleges and universities bringing out bridge programs. So, there is an understanding of, qualifications should matter. Education should matter. Let's see how we can, change that around. So there are some stats here, that you can just read through, but it just obviously, kind of gives you that information in terms of what's happening and some of the challenges. And then I want to spend a couple minutes on financial literacy. If you get anything out of my slide, this is what I want you to take. So even if you don't decide you want to get into financial services, or you're like, I'm not sure, I want you to become financial literate. I want you to understand what it means to have an RESP for your kids' education. What is the difference between a credit score, credit interest rate on credit card versus a line of credit, for example? What does that mean? And what is the difference? You're paying, 5% on one versus 19% on another. Yikes. Lean on your financial advisors, lean on your accountants, ask questions, because that's what's important in helping you through and making you more financially sound so that you can make better decisions as well for yourself. Obviously, I want everyone to just get into financial services, but one thing I can leave you with is become financial literate, because that's going to help you become a better person and be able to just be, as I mentioned, financially sound. References, these are some of the references in which some of these stats were picked up from. So Ontario government, Stats Canada, subscriptions to the Globe and Mail, for example, is a really good one if you want to get an understanding of the industry, of what's happening, what are some of the funds look like. There's Investment Executive, that's another one. There's, obviously there's a bunch of different industry newspapers and online services that you can subscribe to get additional information. So I'm going to leave you here with our website information, as well as our customer service line and our customer service email. Please, by all means, if you do have any questions that are pertaining to, the courses, like how long they take, or, just any question you might have, or, you want to get more information on, please, by all means, go onto our website and contact us as well. So we'll help you through some of your decision making as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Fatima, thank you so much. That was very informative and lots of valuable resources. So folks, if you didn't get to take notes, we'll be posting this, the recording on our website. So you can go back and review the information. And we're going to try and get through as many questions as possible, but you have that email address in front of you. So you could just email IFSC, or you could just route it through Canadian Immigrant. So maybe can I ask you to take just a minute for each answer, because let's run through it.
I know, no worries.
Okay, so is the CIFC exam the same as the Investment Funds in Canada course by the Canadian Securities Institute?
That is a great question. So we are only 2 organizations that can offer the mutual funds course across Canada. So it's the Ifc CIFC as well as the CSI's IFC course. So yes, it's the same course that is equivalent in terms of getting your mutual funds license. So yeah, and we're the only 2 organizations once again, so that offer that program.
Great. Next one, do you have any recommendations on how to deal with a question to do with Canadian experience? Many employers simply don't want to hire international professionals that never worked in Canada before.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm hearing a lot about that, and there's a lot of debates going on in terms of, just opening your ears and hearing about it. And that's what I'm trying to say in terms of highlighting those strengths. If somebody's talking about Canadian experience, there's a way of just turning that question into, this is what I've done. I've just arrived to Canada. I'm taking my courses. So even if you're proactive in saying, what are you actually doing here? I'm enrolled in the CIFC course, for example. I'm enrolled to take, in my CFA program or my CFP program. That's going to give me my knowledge. But let me show you what I've done in my past life. Let me show you what I've done back home and highlight those, because that's what they want to see. They want to see you, oh, okay, well, she's just arrived. So obviously she can't really have Canadian experience, but she's enrolled in the course. So she's going to learn about retirement and taxes and all of that fun stuff. And then, how does that translate to what have you done? So highlight to me what your experience looks like. It may not be Canadian, but what does that experience that you can bring to the table look like? Thank you.
Another one, can I apply for these courses if I have a work permit?
Yes. Yes.
Great. And how can we analyze the CSC NIFIC exam from an early starter's perspective?
Okay, so in terms of the Canadian Securities course, it is, you're learning about stocks and bonds as well as mutual funds. When you're separating that from the CIFC is just strictly mutual funds. So that's what you're learning. Securities is a great course. It's a great program. It's very broad based. There's a lot of information and it is pricey. So a lot of times what I tell people, all the time is you probably want an entry level course. For example, you want to get into the industry. So why not take the mutual funds, get into the industry, and then expand out. If you want to do your securities at that point, you do your securities. If you want to do your branch managers at that point, you do your branch managers. So they're 2 different segments. Securities does include mutual funds in it, but you want to kind of see where you're at. And so that's kind of where, it's all about your preference. You can register in the securities. It might take you a little bit longer to get through that program, or you could do the mutual funds course, do it a little bit more quickly, get your foot in the door, and then decide where you want to branch out.
Great, thank you so much. We'll send the other questions on to you, or your email address was right there if someone wants to reach out directly to you.
Perfect,
so
thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. That was great, very informative. So our final speaker for the day is at the Canadian Immigrant Web Conference Series for internationally trained banking and finance professionals is Miroslav Reljic. So you can just Google or just go to our website, search for Miroslav, and you will find a lot of information about him. So he's a good friend of Canadian Immigrant, and Miro, welcome back to this.
Thank you.
So a little bit about Miro. When he arrived in Canada as a Serbian refugee from war-torn Croatia, In 1999, he was barely able to speak English. With his determination, Miro built himself into an entrepreneurial success, first graduating from the University of Calgary and then the University of Cambridge. In 2013, Miro founded Relgic Coach, a coaching and consulting company, and has written two best-selling books, and we'll be speaking about the power of effective networking. So Miro, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ramya, for having me. I'm always happy to join you. It's a great event. Let me share my screen with you.
Fatima, yeah, okay.
Yes, just one sec. Share. And just bear with me for a sec.
There, good.
Can you guys see it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, good. So welcome all. Thank you, Ramya, again. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. I would like to share my story with the audience, and most of you, all of you are here financial. You have financial background. I myself, I've studied economics, and my very first job in finance actually happened in 2010. Prior to that, I was working for a big oil and gas company, and I got this opportunity to work for ATB in April of 2010, and I always remember it was April 23rd when I got the job, and I was super excited about it. I was I had a few interviews prior to that. It was really hard to get this opportunity, especially being an immigrant, and I didn't have any job banking experience. But also, why I was super excited about it, it was in corporate banking, and at that point, ATB Financial only had 100 people in their group in the corporate banking. So it was really hard to get into this group. And on that day when I got the job, I'll never forget this. I spoke to my best friend, and he says, Miro, now you have to go to Mexico because you're starting in 7 days. I got the job on April 23rd, and I was starting on March 23rd. I was starting on April 1st. And he said, well, you have to go for 7 days somewhere. You have to treat yourself, because what a ride it was to get this opportunity. And I said, you know what, you're right. I'm going to go on a vacation for 7 days. But why I shared this with you, to get to this point, it was a lot of work. And I'm a professional coach. I'll help people to connect and create opportunities for themselves. And it's all about people. It's all about how do you connect with other people. So to get to this point on the 23rd, 23rd of March in 2010, when I signed the document, basically the contract with ATB Financial to work in corporate banking, it was a journey. Why it was a journey? Because I got laid off, funny enough, at the end of 2009 at Gibson Energy. That's where I worked. And my boss at that time, who I still actually speak with, and she's a great friend, she told me, Miro, I'm really sorry to let you go, you're being laid off, but I want to give you an opportunity. And this never happened. This actually really rarely happens to people. But she says, we'll give you a good severance. That's given, but we want to give you it's called a working notice, and it's rarely executed and given to people because it carries a lot of risk for the company. But she said to me, you've been a great employee, and we have we've had great experience with you, but unfortunately we had to end this relationship. But you have two options here. You can either take the money and go, or you can work for the next 6 months and whatever happens. And I said to her, I really appreciate that opportunity. And being an econ guy, I've studied economics, it's part of me. I always like options. And I said, you know what, I will take this other option. I will do the working notice, and I will stay with company for next 6 months. So why is this important, you may ask? Well, it's important because during those 6 months, I was able to look for work, and I was sending resumes, and I had interviews. And one of those interviews happened to be at ATB Financial. And honestly, I didn't think I have a chance. There was hundreds of candidates. If you think that today is bad, and it's really bad, like, because a lot of people apply for jobs, but even back then, it was really, really hard to get into commercial banking. Especially, I had 4 years of experience in oil and gas, but it was not related to banking. So I said, okay, I'll apply. Why not? And I had the first interview. And they actually told me, we have 100 interviewees, and we'll see where this is going to go. But I had the second, and I had the third interview, and things progressed, and they offered me a job. And when I spoke to my boss, who's going to be my future boss at ATP, I said, well, why'd you pick me? There was like so many people. And he said to me, I'll never forget this. He said, Miro, you're a great interviewee, and you offer a lot. You have great Excel skills. You have a lot of econ knowledge, a lot of financial knowledge. But one thing that really resonated with us was your references. Like when we talked to your references, when I spoke to your boss and 3 other people, we had to hire you. And this is something that I really want to stress to you, that you gotta create contacts, and you gotta, even in my situation, I wasn't happy I was leaving Gibson because I was losing a job, but I was positive about it. I worked for next 6 months as if nothing had happened. And my boss and other people in the group really, really loved that. So they gave me great references, and I ended up working at ATB Financial for 2 years in corporate banking. So it was a great experience. So I have this slide for you about networking, and the story I've shared with you is basically, it's about that. It's about how do you create these contacts that will help you propel yourself. And you can Google networking. There's so many definitions of networking, what it means. I'll just share with you what it means to me. Networking to me, it's a meeting with an objective, and a meeting that I will create an objective. What do I want to do? Why am I doing this? Why am I connecting with someone? So it's important to ask yourself that question, because I have this little picture there, the guy that takes the coin and he flips it, and it's a probability, right? It's a probability when you meet someone if you're going to click with that person or not. And this is what a lot of people do actually in real life. They say, well, it's like, oh, I might meet this person, or I might click with this person, or may not. So it looks innocent and it sounds innocent, but if you have to reach out to 100 or 200 people, you will waste a lot of energy if you have this approach, because it's a 50-50 chance. So if you're in finance, honestly, I'm not a big number person, but I absolutely love policy. And I think that's why I'm successful, because yes, you can have a number, but that number has to mean something. So otherwise it's just a number. So if you really want to connect with people, if you want to be successful at networking, yes, it's a probability game, but you have to be smart at this probability game. It's not just 50-50. You want to increase your odds that it's going to be 70-30 or 90-10 or whatever. And that's what I've been very good at. So I want to talk to you about this slide. I'm just mindful of time, sorry. What networking is not, and this is, I get this a lot, this question. It's not what you want to get at another person. If you have this attitude, oh, I'm going to meet Miro, or I'm going to meet someone, and how much I'm going to get at this person, that's not going to work, because people recognize that right away. And now I do a lot of online networking, which is even harder than actual face-to-face networking, because it's all about, in online networking, you have to write, and you have to find a way to connect with that person and they cannot see, you're mimicking with your hands, they cannot see your face. So basically you have to, it's a different way of networking, but not, the point here is it's not what you can get out of that another person. What networking is, it really is the most effective job search strategy. It's the bottom line for networking is self-presentation. And that's why a lot of people have a problem with it, because they're not comfortable about talking about themselves or actually asking another person about themselves. So it's a two-way street. And when you network with someone, we usually want to hear the other person's story. And what a lot of people make mistakes, they talk about themselves. And then that kind of doesn't go well, and that connection is lost. So networking really is an opportunity, and I always treat it as an opportunity. And that's why I share the story with you, that when my boss told me, Miro, do you want to take severance, or do you want to take the working notice? It was an opportunity that was presented to me, and I actually embraced that opportunity. So sometimes you may disagree with a person, but you still have to make that decision. And regardless how I felt in that moment, because when you're being laid off, it's never fun. Let's be clear about that. So, and actually my boss told me that. She says, you're taking this so well, you're not upset about it. I'm like, why would I be upset about it? It's your decision. You're giving me an opportunity. If I'm being upset about it, that speaks more about me than about you. And she's like, yeah, that's right. So you have to really embrace it as an opportunity, because that will open up so many other doors. And for me, networking is always about building long-lasting relationships, real relationships. And sometimes I may disagree with someone or that person with me, but at the end of the day, we'll still be, as I said to you, with my boss that I worked 15 years ago, we're still in touch, we still talk. So it's really about building relationships. Another thing that's very common, that people come to me, and they say, oh, Miro, I'm going to this event and I will meet people there, and I'll stress event. Why is that important? Because they think networking is an event. And I'm like, wow, it's not. Networking is a journey. So what does that mean? I can also go back to my story, is, when you meet with someone, I met my boss in 2006. I worked with her for 4 years. So that's basically also networking. That's why she gave me an opportunity, because there was a strong connection. So if you start networking today, I can guarantee you this, and I worked with thousands of people, more than 5,000 people in this. If you start today to network, it's going to take you 6 months on average to establish a connection. And maybe if there's an opportunity that's going to present to yourself, or this person will connect you, or you'll reach out to that person, doesn't matter what the case is, in 1 year down the road, something might happen, or 2 years down the road, like they might say, hey, I have something for you. So you got to start today. And if you treat as an event, networking as an event, I never do it. It's a journey. So you have to do it constantly over I do it almost every day. So like I always reach out to people. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I always mindfully reach out to other people. Why is it important? Because I hear this also a lot again. A lot of people say, oh, 80% of jobs are not advertised. True. But honestly, for financial corporate banking jobs, like really well-paid jobs, I would say 95% of those jobs are not advertised. It's all, it's a very well-connected world, and they will post jobs. There's no doubt about that. But they already might have someone out there, who is applying. And as I mentioned to you before, there's a lot of people applying for the same job. So you have to stand out. You have to find a way to stand out. So if you have, I worked on the floor, so I remember people saying, oh, I have a friend for this job. Well, if that person interviews and you have someone else who doesn't know anyone, it doesn't mean that the person that was recommended will get a job, but they do have a higher chance. So you have to stand out. So how I stood out, I had excellent knowledge of Excel. I had excellent knowledge of economics. I really showed them what I can do for them. So you really, really have to stand out. And networking skills. So what are effective networking skills? I'm going to go through this. I could talk about this for hours, but these are the ones I highlighted. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I already see some people connecting with me, and I want to encourage you, because that's really important that you connect with people on LinkedIn. The number one thing is it's to give, give, give. And that's what I talked about before. If you have this mindset, oh, what's in there for me? Oh, I'm going to use this person, and, I'm going to contact Miro, and I'm going to pick up everything I need from him. And basically, I'm never going to talk to him again. I got to tell you one thing. No one is stupid, okay? If you treat people as stupid, guess what? You'll be treated as stupid. So try not to just say, oh, what's in there for me? Yes, and I understand you don't want to get a job, you want to get an opportunity, but first you have to give, and you have to give, and you have to give, to the point that you'll be like, why am I giving this so much? Well, you have to give in order to receive. The second thing that I really want to highlight and stress is that you got to listen. And this is what a lot of people miss. If you even connect with someone online, you got to listen. You got to read what that person is telling you. I get this a lot. Miro, I'm here, and I want to connect with you, and this is what I can do for you. And I'm like, oh, how do you know you can do that for me? And not only that, but I can do this for you. And I'm like, oh, really? But I didn't say a word. So this is a way how you turn off people. And actually, in my book, Insights into Effective Coaching, you can find it on Amazon. I have one little thing about silence. I talk about silence. And I want to read this to you. To effectively use silence, because listening and silence is the same thing. You have to be comfortable when you're met with it. So that's why a lot of people fail. Seriously, they fail at networking because they're not comfortable with silence, and they're not comfortable with listening. So you got to be comfortable to listen to other people. Otherwise, you don't want to be perceived as obnoxious or pushy, or a lot of other stuff that people will say, oh my God, this is too much. Patience, this is another thing. Patience is your friend. But again, it's really, really hard to do, because, if you're looking for a job and 6 months down the road, there's nothing happening, and then a year down the road, there's nothing happening, and you're an immigrant like myself, who I've built myself from scratch. I didn't have friends who can help me. I didn't have powerful friends to say, oh, Miro, well, here's a job at ATB, and you're going to get this job. No, I had to find this job. I had to apply for it. I had these crazy interviews, and I got it because of my knowledge, because of what I brought to the table. So, but you have to be patient. And if you're not, I guarantee you one thing, and this is, I teach people in my program, people sense this, it's like people can sense fear in you or your desperation. And if you're fearful or desperate, they'll say, I have 10 other people who are more self-confident. Why would I go with this person? So be mindful. Patience is the key. Honesty, I can highlight how it's important. And I'm not saying that people sometimes are dishonest. Actually, it comes around from fear perspective. What do I mean by that? Sometimes we say, and ties in with delivery, if you say something, if you, let's say, connect with me and you say, Miro, this is what I've done, or you're sending me the link to your website or whatever, or, you say, Miro, here's a report that I've built. And you can find this in the report. I click on it, of course, and I open it up, and there's nothing in there. So right away, you wasted my time. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Why are you doing this to yourself? Not to me, to me too, because, I've just wasted, let's say, 5 minutes of my time, and you don't want to waste other people's time. But I would feel, I'm like, okay, so you said there's a report, there's nothing in it, or the information is wrong. Oh my God, why are you doing this to yourself? So you got to be honest. And also, if you say, I'm going to meet with you at 8 o'clock, a virtual coffee meeting, or a meeting like this, this is a great presentation, my other colleagues have spoke. if you're late, or if you're, I don't know, there's so many different things that may happen. You got to really deal with that, and you have to find a way to be honest and to say, this is what happened or whatever. So when you're meeting with people, when you're networking, you really, really have to, whatever you say you're going to do, you got to do it. So I'm just mindful of time. What are the obstacles? And this is something, I really spend a lot of time when I teach people on this, because networking, it's simple if you know how to do it, but these are the obstacles. And this is why people are not successful in doing an effective networking. There's a big thing of rejection. So if you're networking, you will be rejected. There's no doubt about that. You will be rejected, and that's why I said at the beginning of the presentation, you have to have an objective. Why do you want to connect with someone? Because if if I'm connecting with someone just because, hey, I just want to meet you, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, why? So you gotta know, why are you reaching out? And you gotta know that you will be rejected. That's part of the game. And a lot of people cannot handle this. And I find this with immigrants, I'm an immigrant myself, but I find this with immigrants that I'll tell you one little thing. I remember when I've been living in Canada for 20 years now, but there was this fear of authority that always at the back of my mind. And it's like, may I say this? Can I say this? Am I going to be perceived in a different way? Because in my culture, you never kind of you have to respect the authority, and it's ingrained in me. And it's like, you never really want to push anything that might cause any discomfort, and you have to really, really honor that authority. But when you're reaching out, you might reach out. Now I'm reaching out to CEOs or founders or analysts. I mean, I'm talking to so many different people. And this fear was holding me back for many years. But then I said, you know what? If they say no, what else I can lose, right? But then fear of having an accent. This is a really big problem for people because it can cause a lot of discomfort. They cannot express themselves because they start thinking of their accent, and it just goes, it's a spiral. Written English and French skills. This is actually really important. It was always important, but now, because a lot of it's written, if you're not sure, it's better. One secret that I want to share with you, and my bosses always love this. When I made a mistake, I would say, I think I made a mistake. And my boss would say, oh, I'm really glad you're honest about it. Because not a lot of people would say that, because they would be so proud to say it. I'm like, well, listen, I rather I tell you I made a mistake than someone else comes in and they point it out. And this is a problem, a big problem, actually. I see it a lot with newcomers, where they say, oh, I'm not gonna say it. I mean, it may not be seen. Dangerous, because it will be seen. So it's better to admit it. Forcing a connection, I see this a lot, and it's really, really bad, actually. It makes people very uncomfortable, and they will delete you and block you, and it'll end really fast. Not following through, we talked about it. Sounding desperate, we've talked about it, and I understand why people sound desperate. But you never want to sound desperate. Think about it. If you go on a date and you meet someone for the very first time, and you say, oh, I will marry you in like 3 months. What's going to happen, right? It's not good. So it's the same thing. Like, you don't want to sound desperate. Not listening, we talked about it. Not utilizing social media in an effective way. I work a lot with my clients on this. It's really, really important, because there's no school for this. That's why people come to me. There's no school for how to utilize social media and networking effectively. I'm just mindful of time. I'm going to wrap up soon. So the 3 pillars of effective networking are these. So networking, interviewing, and achieving. I focus on networking. Achieving means anything you want to do that basically if you want to get a job, if you want to start a business, if you want to connect with people, if you have good networking knowledge and skills how to do it, you will actually be able to nail interviewing, and you will be able to get that opportunity, achieve that opportunity if you want. So these are three pillars. So if you remove one pillar, guess what's going to happen? And actually, I think that if you remove networking, this little house that you see there will collapse, because it's just, networking is so important to achieve your success. This is the book I've written. This is the link you can find, and you can go and find the book. There's a lot of good stuff in it. And I often speak from my programs are all tailored from this book. You can connect with me here sorry, this is the email. You can send me, or you can text me at this phone number. Please sign up for my free newsletter. If you send me an email, I'll just send you the link. I'll send you monthly newsletters. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I want to encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I know I'm mindful of time, but Ramya, can I just add this one thing? So honestly, my friends, I don't see you, but you see me. This is a true story. Other 10 people, let's say, that listen to me, or my colleagues, they're only going to be one, and this is statistically proven, that's actually going to reach out to on LinkedIn. And so why is this important? Because if you don't reach out and if you don't connect, you're actually losing out, because a lot of people are so uncomfortable to actually reach out, connect on LinkedIn. And that's the way how you actually connect with people these days. So you don't have to connect, but I want to encourage you to connect with me and with my fellow speakers, and with Ramya and the team. They're awesome.
Thank you. And likewise, thank you for a great presentation. I learned something every time I listen to you.
You're welcome.
So I'm just going to, at least get to one question. Maybe you have 30 seconds to answer, maybe a minute. So specific to introverts, how do you recommend that we start with networking?
Well, that's a great question. So how do you start? That's why I actually mentioned LinkedIn. Just with reaching out to people through written conversation. And so if you're an introvert, welcome to my world. I am an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert. So believe it or not, if you're an introvert, you have actually more chances of success with connecting with people than extroverts. Why? Because extroverts are all about, they just talk, but there's very little substance. And sorry, extroverts, but with introverts will actually think. Introverts will actually do research. So if you're an introvert, you'll research Miro. You will research Ramya. You will research people. And that, my friends, it's your goal. Because, and you say, oh, Miro, I've heard this about you. Oh, this person actually, they took their time. Yeah, I would like to connect with you. That's my question. That's my answer for introverts.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So any other questions, please send it to Miro, because we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So thank you to all of you for attending our first web conference series for 2021 in partnership with Access Employment and sponsored by IFSC, Public Mobile, Windmill Microlending, and Western Union. Before we leave, we have a quick announcement again. Western Union is offering an amazing deal for newcomers to transfer money to your loved ones at $0. Simply download the Western Union app today to find out more. And finally, we're going to play a video from our sponsor, Public Mobile. And before anything, let me say thank you to our speakers, Eduardo, Fatima, and Miro. You guys were awesome, and lots of great information. So I hope you will go back, our viewers, and look at this video, because there is such a lot of great information, and simply notes might not be enough. So, and so it will be posted on our website. And if you have any questions, you can email the speakers or send us an email, info@canadianimmigrant.ca. One more announcement, check out our Canadian Immigrant virtual fairs. I mentioned this earlier, happening on the 15th of April. Sorry about that. Laura, I unmuted myself, so don't worry. That was just a little glitch there. So check out our Canadian immigrant fairs, and everything is online. Just sign up for a newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out every week. Just go to our website, and we hope you enjoyed this session. We'll just leave you with a quick announcement from our partner, Public Mobile. Laura, please go ahead and play the video.
Matt and Megan felt stuck with their phone company. But since switching to Public Mobile, where there's no commitments, no contracts, and no hidden fees, they're free to feel the love again.
Thank you for playing that, Laura. We're really thankful to our sponsors because we've gone virtual this year and well, for the last year, and their support has meant a lot to us. And thank you to Miro, Fatima again, and Eduardo. And thank you to our viewers. Stay connected with us. Let us know what you'd like to hear, what you want our next web conference to be about, and have a great day. We'll see you again, hopefully soon. Bye. Take care.